so don't blame it on me.
So I thought, do you know what? This is actually a really interesting topic because...
You know what? I think she's amazing. She really
One story that really caught my attention this week.
My story relates to a particular TV.
It's going to take away a lot of jobs.
Week in Review.
It's Shay here with you this afternoon, continuing for our final part of Week in Review in this hour on Radio London. It's already 3:52. It's flown by, hasn't it, this hour? Joining me, I've got the fantastic Rachel Krieger, a comedian and podcaster. You can get more details on rachelkrieger.com. And also James Erskine, who is the founder of Rocket and a technology expert here on the show. Get more details for him on James Erskine on X. Thanks for staying with us. So today, as I understand it, James, I had no idea about this, is Super Thursday.
You're right.
What on earth does this mean?
So what it means is you might just think it's an ordinary Super Thursday. If you worked in the publishing industry and were working in publishing books, today would be Super Thursday, and it is. And the reason it is because more books get published on Super Thursday. It's always around this time of year, normally the first or second Thursday in October.
Okay.
More books get published than on any other day of the year. Now, they estimate 1,900 different books are being published today.
Goodness.
And it's huge. It sets the precedent. Normally books come out on a Thursday anywhere in the UK, just a quirk of the way the publishing industry works.
Okay.
Just stocking the shops for the weekend in the old-fashioned way of publishing. Now it tends to happen once a month, and this is the biggest one of the year. Now, you won't have noticed loads about Super Thursday, because this year it's been dominated by one release. And that one release is Boris Johnson's memoir, Unleashed.
Right. Yes.
And he's been doing those interviews everywhere. There was a great one on the BBC yesterday. There wasn't the one last week on BBC TV with Laura Kuenssberg. But that's kind of been the biggest. It's likely that his book will be seen as the top-selling political memoir of the year.
Okay.
Rory Stewart being the other contender whose book came out earlier in the year. But there are other trends as well. Kate Moss has got a book out. J.D. Picoult has got a book out. Lots of the children's authors have got a book out. And as well as being excited and setting a precedent for Christmas, I think there's a wider context to look at the job that publishers do in our lives. Because there was another piece of research that came out recently where if your child reads regularly, they are likely to have better mental health. The other thing is, the one thing you always hear from school is get your children reading.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what, but
just
get
read.
them reading something and read to them.
Sure.
So there's a number of trends here in what can we look at to get children reading on a regular basis? What excuse have we of adults got for not reading on a regular basis? And there's a huge breadth of books that are out all the time.
There's an article in the Times literally titled "Help, My Children Won't Read." And actually, I mean, everyone may tire of me saying this, but as you know, I've got a 7-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
My husband Sonny is dyslexic, so the responsibility of reading comes to me to read to Tyra. But even I've got to be honest with you, with the world of smartphones, tablets, it's hard to keep your child engaged when you're reading to them.
So I work for a marketing business, as you know.
Yes.
And we are lucky. We work with pretty much every major publisher in the UK. And that's really exciting to me because it helps me stay abreast of children's books. So sometimes I'm a hero when I get to go home with free children's books.
Happy Dave.
But my darling daughter loves reading. She's a voracious reader. My son, it was more of a challenge. And we actually went through a series of football books that are written as stories about real football players. And that was a really good tip to get him engaged and really jump on the fact that he was a football statistician and he loved everything about the beautiful game. The other cheat, and this I need to declare an interest because we're working on a campaign for them right now.
Okay.
But Guinness World Records, it's almost such a big perennial yearly thing.
True.
That it's not a book.
Yes.
You can buy it as an annual. It was on my Christmas list growing up. It's their 70th year next year.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible? They're bringing out a Gamers Edition this year because there's so many of the records that excite the children are gaming edition, are gaming related. And I just think it's a really good example of where a child doesn't feel like they're learning, but they're reading
And they're still reading.
they're learning.
I like it.
And it's a science book, it's a nature book.
Great for
it's
pub quizzes,
it's
if
good
you
for
know all
pub
those
quizzes.
facts.
Do you know it started, Guinness World Records started being paid for by Guinness to put in pubs to encourage pub debates. So exactly what you're saying.
Wow.
That's why it's called
It
Guinness.
worked.
And people started stealing it from pubs.
Right.
And that's why they then started publishing
we
it.
need to sell these now.
So there we go. Isn't that incredible?
Did not
So
know that.
I just think and there are other examples out there, but I just think it's a really good example of
Sure.
learning by stealth, that kind of almost Reithian belief.
You're right, though, aren't you? You've got to diversify in the way that you engage your child to
Yes.
read. Just because of time, I know we've got a final story, but what are your thoughts briefly on this, Rachel?
I mean, just in terms of the Guinness Book of Records, I used to get that every year for my nephew Asher for Hanukkah, and all the kids would crowd round to read it, and they'd all be parroting little facts for hours/days afterwards. Did you know who had the whatever? And I it's an amazing thing what that does.
Yes.
I have a processing disorder that's similar to dyslexia. It doesn't affect my reading as much as my writing.
Okay.
And I've always been a bookworm. I think, and my kids are both readers, but my older one is now 30, but he wasn't a big reader when he was younger.
Yeah.
And then it turned out what he really likes is non-fiction. Like once he found his thing.
That's it. This is what I'm getting from what both of you were saying as parents as well. You've got to help your child find their thing. It's not necessarily that they don't like reading. It's the subject matter.
Yeah.
It's what they're reading.
But it's the concentration as well, because they're not used to it now that everything just is delivered to them on their online.
And just finally, because I did want to touch upon this, there was a final story that you wanted to talk about, which is also very personal to your own family, Rachel.
Yes, I just wanted to briefly mention the wonderful Lily Ebert, who passed away yesterday. She's a Holocaust survivor who did an amazing amount of education, telling her story, but also in a positive way about how we can become a better community and more caring community. She and her family were sent to Auschwitz-Birkenau, and her family were mainly murdered in the camps, and then she survived, but she made a conscious choice to survive as a positive person, and instead of holding anger, to hold strength and dignity and determination. And she became maybe a very unlikely huge TikTok star and influencer with her grandson Dov. They've got over 2 million followers, and they since TikTok emerged, Dov and his grandmother Lily have been sharing her experiences, but also giving people advice and all kinds of things. You know, what a wonderful thing to be able to be so positive. She's going to be greatly missed.
I know that the King sent a representative to personally read out a message of condolence at the funeral, which took place earlier today.
Yes.
And deepest condolences, and thank you so much for sharing that. So I think you're right, actually. What is so do you know the TikTok channel? Because anyone may want to see some of her positive messages.
Yeah, please do.
Yes.
At Lily Ebert, LILYEBERT, and you can still obviously see the back catalogue of their conversations with family friends of members of that family.
Thank you for that, Rachel. Just before I say goodbye to both of you, because the time always whizzes by, you've got a show in London, haven't you, on
Tuesday, the Hen and Chickens in Islington. It's Ultimate Jewish Mother. If you like sort of Victoria Wood type musical comedy, then please come along. It's really fun to be able to do the show there. It's a last minute booking, so I'm very excited.
Oh, happy days.
Yeah, Ultimate Jewish Mother. It's not even on my website yet, but it is on my socials.
Okay.
I have no excuse. I live on Upper Street, so I have to come.
It's
Rachel
a really fun show.
And James, so lovely having you both here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining
Thank
me.
you.
Go to Rach Krieger and James Erskine on X and social media. You can find them both there. And if you'd like to weigh in on any of the stories that they've put on the agenda today, please do. 0800 731 2000. Absolutely loved having them here. Thanks to Rachel and to James. Right, time now is 4:01. Let's get the news.